What if the greatest war in history happened before time began and the outcome was decided before the first sword was drawn? Imagine a betrayal so catastrophic it tore heaven apart, yet Jesus stood silent watching Lucifer's rebellion unfold with full knowledge of the devastation to come. He could have stopped it in an instant, but he chose not to, and the reason will shatter everything you think you know about good, evil, and God's ultimate plan for your life. You are about to enter the mind of the divine architect in a cosmic chess match where every move was calculated for eternity. So welcome to Bible and Prophecy, where we uncover the deepest mysteries of Scripture. If you are ready to have your faith challenged and your eyes opened to the truth, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with believers everywhere to help us spread the light. Prepare yourself, because the story of Christ's role in heaven's war isn't just ancient history, it is the key to understanding your very existence, and it all starts with a question you have probably never dared to ask. What if everything you thought you knew about good and evil was wrong, because before time began, a cosmic battle raged in the heavens, and at its center stood Jesus, knowing what was to come? For he saw Lucifer's rebellion before it happened, and he could have stopped it, but he didn't. And the reason why will shake your understanding of free will, evil, and God's plan to its very core. So get ready for a journey that will challenge your faith and open your eyes to a powerful truth that begins with a question you have probably never considered. But before we unlock this ancient mystery, if you are seeking the truth in these chaotic times, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, Bible and Prophecy, and like this video to help us spread this message to believers across the world. The truth about Christ's role in heaven's war isn't just mind-blowing, it is life-changing. For heaven was a magnificent sight where the air shimmered with golden light, and angelic voices filled the atmosphere with harmonies we can only imagine. And among all the angels, Lucifer stood out, for his beauty was beyond compare, with his wings shining like polished gems, reflecting the glory of the Creator. For God had made him perfect, giving him wisdom and power beyond measure. But deep inside Lucifer, something started to change at first. It was just a tiny feeling of discontent, a whisper in the soul, because he was already the highest-ranking angel right next to God. But as he gazed upon the Almighty's throne, he began to wonder, why can't I sit there? He thought, aren't I beautiful enough, wise enough, powerful enough? And these poisonous ideas didn't come all at once, for Lucifer's fall was a slow, gradual process, much like how pride enters the human heart, where in the beginning he pushed these thoughts away, perhaps shocked at his own audacity, but they kept returning, growing stronger each time, for God had given Lucifer authority over the other angels, and he was their leader, their shining example. But now that position felt insufficient, and he started to see the other angels as lesser beings, asking himself, why should I bow to anyone, even God? And as pride took root in Lucifer's heart, his relationship with God changed, so the closeness they once shared began to feel like a burden, and he started to resent the very being who had created him and loved him most. But here is the shocking part: God knew, for he saw the darkness growing in Lucifer's heart long before it manifested in rebellion. Yet he allowed it to happen, and you must ask why. Because while Lucifer was plotting his rebellion, Jesus wasn't just watching. He was working on a plan that would span millennia, ultimately leading to the cross and the defeat of sin and death. So think of it like this: Jesus is like an author, writing a story, and he knows every character, every twist and turn from the beginning to the end, for he knew about Lucifer's fall, about the temptation in Eden, about his own birth in Bethlehem. He saw it all, and still, he let Lucifer's pride grow, not because he was powerless to stop it, but because he had a greater purpose in mind. For God's plan wasn't just reactive, responding to Lucifer's rebellion. It was proactive, set in motion before the world's creation. Just as Ephesians 1:4 says, for he chose us in him before the creation of the world, to be holy and blameless in his sight. So while Lucifer was falling, Jesus was preparing, and he was laying the groundwork for a redemption story that would echo through eternity. But why create Lucifer if he knew this would happen? It is because God values free will above all else, for he didn't create robots or puppets, but beings with the ability to choose to love him freely, and with that freedom comes the potential for rebellion. So Lucifer's fall wasn't a failure in God's plan. It was a tragic but necessary part of a much bigger story, a story of love, redemption, and ultimate victory. And while Lucifer plotted in the shadows, a greater power stood waiting for Jesus. The Eternal Son knew every move before it was made. But why didn't he act immediately? Because the answer reveals a plan more intricate than we could ever imagine. Before time itself began, Jesus existed in perfect unity with God the Father, and Colossians 1:16 tells us that all things were created through him and for him, which meant Jesus had ultimate authority over everything in creation, including the angels. So as Lucifer's heart began to turn away from God, Jesus watched, and he saw the pride growing, the desire for power taking root, and he knew exactly where it would lead. And Jesus felt the pain of betrayal, yet remained silent, because Jesus was playing a long game that Lucifer couldn't comprehend. Like a master chess player, he saw moves far beyond the present moment, for God's knowledge goes beyond just knowing what will happen. As Psalm 139 says, "You know when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar, you discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways, before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely." So before Lucifer even had his first rebellious thought, Jesus already knew about it, and he had already planned how to use it for something greater. For Revelation 13:8 talks about the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world, suggesting that God's plan of salvation through Jesus' sacrifice was set in motion before the world was even created. So while Lucifer thought he was making his own choices, he was actually playing right into God's master plan, a plan that would ultimately lead to the defeat of evil and the redemption of humanity. For Jesus knew that crushing Lucifer's rebellion immediately wouldn't solve the real problem. It wouldn't address the issue of sin and free will, and it wouldn't provide a way for humanity to be reconciled to God. So he chose a harder path, a path that would lead him from the glories of heaven to the humiliation of the cross, a path that would allow him to defeat evil, not through raw power, but through sacrificial love. So as Lucifer's rebellion brewed, Jesus was already looking ahead. He saw beyond the fall, beyond the flood, beyond the cross, to the ultimate victory that was coming. He saw you and me reconciled to God, our sins forgiven. But what if Lucifer's rebellion wasn't just a problem to be solved, but a crucial part of a grander design? Well, the answer might surprise you as we enter the cosmic chess match. Because as the cosmic chess match between Jesus and Lucifer was about to begin, the fate of all creation hung in the balance, and Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, had already set the board long before Lucifer made his first move. So the rebellion in heaven wasn't a surprise to God. It was part of his plan all along, for God's sovereignty is so vast that even the darkest evil can't escape his control. He doesn't cause evil, but he can use it for good. And Jesus, standing at the right hand of the Father, saw beyond the immediate conflict. His gaze was fixed on a victory so complete that it would shake the foundations of reality itself. For every scheme Lucifer could dream up, Jesus had already countered. It is like playing chess against someone who can see every possible move you might make a trillion steps ahead. So the Son of God's plan stretched across eternity, intricate beyond our wildest imagination. Each thread of history, each life, each choice, all part of a tapestry so vast we can barely glimpse its edges. And at the center of it all stood the cross, the moment when everything would change. But Lucifer, blinded by pride, couldn't see the true nature of the game, and he thought he was outmaneuvering God himself. But his arrogance was his downfall. So every action he took, thinking he was opposing God, was actually playing right into Jesus' hands. And you might ask, why would Jesus allow this rebellion to happen at all? Well, the answer reveals something profound about God's character. He allowed it because he knew That through this conflict an even greater good would emerge, for the war in heaven was about you and me, and about the delicate balance of free will, love, and the very nature of good and evil, because Jesus saw how he could use even Lucifer's worst actions to bring about ultimate good. So think about Joseph in the Bible, whose brothers sold him into slavery intending harm. But years later, Joseph tells them with tears in his eyes, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives," just as Genesis 50:20 reminds us. And the cross of Jesus is the ultimate example of this divine principle, where the worst act of evil in history, the murder of the sinless Son of God, became the means of salvation for all humanity. As Hebrews 2:10 says, in bringing many sons and daughters to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through what he suffered, proving that God's sovereignty is so complete that even the darkest moments of history serve his ultimate plan. And this cosmic chess match reveals the depth of God's wisdom and the unstoppable nature of his love for us as the fall of the morning star approached, and the cosmic chess match between Jesus and Lucifer was about to reach its climax in a confrontation that wasn't just any battle, but a war that would shake the very foundations of heaven itself. For in a moment that would change everything, Lucifer's discontent finally boiled over into open rebellion, and his pride had grown so great that he actually believed he could overthrow God himself. And Lucifer wasn't alone in his treachery, for he had been whispering his poisonous thoughts to other angels, and now a third of heaven's host stood with him, ready to wage war against their creator. So the sky eyes of heaven, once filled with peace, now crackled with the energy of impending conflict, and on one side stood Lucifer and his followers, with faces twisted with pride and anger, while on the other side the archangel Michael led God's faithful angels with expressions resolute and determined. And then heaven erupted into chaos as the clash of angelic weapons echoed through the celestial realms, and light and darkness collided in a spectacular display of power, where brilliant flashes illuminated the battlefield as angelic swords clashed, and the air itself seemed to tremble with the force of their combat, while Jesus, the eternal Son of God, watched as the conflict unfolded, and he saw every blow struck every angel that fell, and his heart ached with each moment, because these weren't just random beings to him, they were his creation, loved since before time began. But as the tide of battle turned against Lucifer and his rebels, Jesus witnessed their fall from grace, just as Revelation 12 describes this moment where there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. So in that instant, Lucifer became Satan, the adversary of God and man. His beauty corrupted, his light extinguished as he fell, dragging his followers with him, and a new chapter in a cosmic struggle began. But you might ask, why didn't Jesus stop this when he knew it would happen, and he could have prevented all the pain and suffering that would follow? Well, the answer reveals a profound truth about God's plan and the nature of free will, because Jesus values something even more than peace in heaven. He values free will, for the ability to choose to love freely is at the core of what it means to be created in God's image. So if Jesus had simply destroyed Lucifer at the first sign of rebellion, he would have been enforcing obedience through power, not love. But instead, Jesus allowed the rebellion to play out, and he let Lucifer and the other angels make their choice, even though he knew the heartbreaking consequence. And this wasn't weakness on Jesus's part. It was an act of profound love and respect for the free will of his creation. For in allowing this rebellion, Jesus set the stage for an even greater demonstration of God's love, where the fall of Lucifer was just one move in a much larger plan, a plan that would ultimately lead to the cross and the redemption of humanity. But the war in heaven was over, and the real battle was just beginning in a lush garden on a young planet where evil was about to strike at the very heart of God's creation. But why would Jesus allow this to happen? Well, Satan, still smarting from his defeat in heaven, saw an opportunity, and he slithered into the perfect world God had created, with his eyes fixed on a new target called humanity. For these fragile beings made in God's image were about to face a test they couldn't possibly understand, and the serpent's lies in the garden echoed his own rebellion as he questioned God's command, just as he had questioned God's authority. In heaven asking, did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden," with his voice dripping with doubt, and though Eve hesitated, the serpent pressed on, hissing, "You will not certainly die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And this temptation mirrored Lucifer's own fall. The desire to be like God, which had corrupted him, now threatened humanity. So Adam and Eve reached out, took the fruit, and everything changed, and Jesus watched as sin entered his perfect world, and he could have stopped it with a single word, but he didn't, because this tragedy played a crucial role in his grand design. Even though the Son of God's heart broke for his beloved creation, whom he had crafted with his own hands, breathed life into and walked with in the cool of the day, for now, in an instant, that perfect relationship was shattered. But even in this dark moment, hope shone through, as Genesis 3:15 gives us a hint of what was to come, promising, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers, and he will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." And this verse, known as the first gospel, was a promise, meaning that even though evil had entered the world, it wouldn't have the final say, for the offspring of the woman, Jesus himself, would one day crush the serpent's head. So the fall of humanity set the stage for the greatest act of love the universe would ever see, and Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, chose to let this unfold, knowing that through this fall he could demonstrate the depths of his love in a way that would shake the foundations of reality, which doesn't mean that God causes evil. Rather, it shows his ability to bring good out of even the worst situations, like he is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, seeing moves that we can't even imagine. So how might history have been different if Adam and Eve had resisted temptation? We will never know, but we do know that God's plan of redemption was set in motion from the very beginning, leading to the cross, which was God's checkmate, for the moment had come when Satan thought he had won, and Jesus, the Son of God, hung on a Roman cross, beaten and bloody, while the enemy's plan seemed to be working perfectly. But what Satan didn't know was that this was exactly what Jesus had been waiting for since before time began. For Jesus had been planning for this very moment, and the cross wasn't just a response to evil, it was God's master plan all along. But why would God choose such a brutal symbol as his checkmate? Well, the cross was destined to redefine power forever, about transforming the very nature of evil itself, because Jesus took on the full weight of all the darkness that had begun with Lucifer's rebellion, absorbing every act of pride, every moment of betrayal, and every sin committed by humanity. For Jesus bore it all and defeated Satan through sacrificial love in a move so unexpected it shook the foundations of hell itself. So picture Satan's face as his supposed victory crumbled before his eyes, because the Apostle John tells us the Son of God was revealed for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil. And this was a moment when that purpose was fulfilled in the most extraordinary way possible, as the promise God made in the Garden of Eden, that the offspring of the woman would crush the serpent's head, was finally realized, turning the very act meant to destroy Jesus into his greatest triumph, where the cross, a symbol of shame and defeat, was transformed into the ultimate victory. And Jesus's death was just the beginning, for his resurrection undid all the damage that had started in Eden, breaking the power of sin and death, and establishing a new covenant offering hope to all of humanity. So suddenly Satan's rebellion took on a whole new meaning, where what he intended for evil, God used for an even greater display of his glory, just like Joseph said to his brothers in Genesis 50:20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish the saving of many lives." For the cross became the cosmic battlefield, where Jesus defeated evil once and for all. But here is what most people Miss Jesus didn't just conquer evil, he transformed it, so the very evil directed at him became the means for ultimate good and redemption for humanity. And when Jesus uttered his final word on the cross, tetelestai, which means it is finished, he wasn't admitting defeat, he was declaring victory, signaling that the battle against evil had been won and death itself had been conquered, which wasn't just a victory for Jesus, but a victory for all of us, providing a way for humanity to be redeemed and restored, opening the door for us to be reconciled with God, while showcasing his glory in the process. For the cross wasn't just about dealing with past sin, it was about establishing a new reality for the future, where Jesus' sacrifice set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to the complete eradication of evil from the universe. Even though the modern battle rages on and Satan's rebellion continues here on earth, his days are numbered, as Revelation 12:12 warns, the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So this cosmic conflict is hurtling towards its climax, and the enemy is desperate, but Jesus is coming back. And this time he is not a humble carpenter, for Revelation paints a vivid picture of Christ's return, where heaven stands open and a white horse appears, whose rider is called Faithful and True, who with justice judges and wages war as the conquering King, coming to settle accounts once and for all, with eyes blazing like fire and many crowns resting on his head, dressed in a robe dipped in blood, while an angel descends with the key to the bottomless pit, binding Satan for 1,000 years, because God is saying enough is enough and your time is up. For Christ isn't just defeating evil, he is establishing his kingdom, where Revelation 21 describes a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and God's dwelling place is now among the people, where he will dwell with them, and there will be no more tears, no more death, no more mourning or pain, because everything that went wrong in Eden will be set right, and the curse that has haunted humanity since the fall will finally be broken. So even those who rebelled will acknowledge Christ's victory, as Philippians 2 declares that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, including Satan and his fallen angels. For Jesus is undoing all the damage caused by sin and death, erasing every heartache, every broken relationship, and every disease. As Paul proclaims, death has been swallowed up in victory. But we don't have to wait for Christ's return to experience his victory, because we can participate in it daily by loving our enemies, forgiving those who hurt us, and sharing the good news of God's love. For every act of kindness is a blow against the darkness. And this cosmic drama isn't just about the future. It is about your life right now, because the choices you make today matter eternally. So will you align yourself with Christ's coming kingdom, where the universe will finally see the truth that God's way of love triumphs over pride and rebellion, showing that where sin increased, grace abounded all the more, for the very rebellion that threatened to tear the cosmos apart becomes the backdrop for displaying God's unfathomable love and wisdom, meaning Jesus' victory on the cross isn't just history, it is alive in your daily choices when you choose love over hate or forgiveness over bitterness, making you part of this ongoing story, where the real battle is in your heart. And each day you face Lucifer's choice to trust God's plan or try to take control, knowing your decisions shape eternity. But wait, just when we think this cosmic battle reaches its peak, there is another stunning chapter that will leave you speechless regarding that angel with the key to the bottomless pit we just mentioned, because there is so much more to this story that meets the eye. For this mysterious angel goes by a name that sends chills down your spine: Abaddon. So think about it. God chose this specific angel for the most important prison duty in history, locking up Satan himself for 1,000 years. But who is this powerful being, and what special powers did God give them, and why were they chosen for this incredible task? Well, the story of Abaddon will blow your mind, because we are talking about one of God's most powerful warriors, handpicked for a mission that would change everything. And trust us, what happens next is absolutely incredible. So if you want to discover the untold story of God's dark angel who imprisoned Satan, Do not hesitate. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now, for you won't believe what we found in the Bible about this mysterious figure. So join us on Bible and Prophecy and click now to continue this amazing journey.